They often say love is a journey, but for the Sigma male, walking alone isn't a wrong turn. It's a chosen road, carved with intent. His solitude isn't the absence of connection. It's the deliberate practice of mastering himself. While society tends to label singlehood as failure, emptiness, or something that needs fixing, the Sigma male knows better. He recognizes that true strength is built quietly, away from the endless noise of expectation and conformity. Modern psychology even backs this truth. Research shows that periods of deliberate solitude sharpen emotional intelligence, expand creativity, and heighten strategic thinking. The Sigma doesn't just read about this, he lives it. He's not isolated. He's observant. His measure of life isn't approval, status, or constant validation. Instead, he weighs things by clarity, purpose, and the razor-sharp accuracy of his choices. Before we dive deeper, let me ask you something. Where are you watching this from right now? And what time is it on your clock? I'd love to know when and where this message finds you, because sometimes the timing itself says more about your own journey than you realize. Stick with me, because what comes next may just reshape how you view your solitude. Every year of solitude becomes a refining fire, a crucible that tempers his mind and hones his instincts. Away from distraction, he cultivates patience, disciplines his impulses, and develops an almost surgical understanding of human behavior. What others lose in noise, he gains in precision. His choice isn't to reject connection, but to reject anything that weakens his focus or drains his vision. This mindset filters every relationship, every friendship, even fleeting encounters. Nothing passes without intention. Every bond must carry weight, whether in growth, wisdom, or alignment with his deeper purpose. To the outside world, this may look like arrogance, detachment, or insecurity. But in reality, it is calculated patience, the kind only a man truly confident in himself can afford. Even neuroscience aligns with this philosophy. Studies confirm that independent decision-making activates and strengthens the prefrontal cortex, the very region responsible for foresight, judgment, and higher reasoning. For the Sigma male, solitude is not wasted time. It is brain-deep growth. It transforms isolation into influence, quiet into charisma. The longer he remains single, the more his presence commands attention. Not because he's chasing it, but because self-possession naturally radiates. When he finally does step forward, whether to engage with the world or commit to a partner, there is nothing accidental about him. Every word is deliberate. Every gesture is measured. His emotions are not reactive. They are intentional, refined, and powerful. His interactions reveal years of cultivation, not moments of impulse. In truth, the Sigma male turns solitude into strategy, independence into power, and singlehood into a lifelong education in self-mastery. He proves that the quietest roads often lead to the strongest destinations. Point 1. He becomes more purpose-driven. Think about it. When you're single, your time and energy aren't divided by another person's wants, needs, or demands. That doesn't mean relationships are worthless. But the raw truth is this: focus is sharper when it isn't constantly pulled in multiple directions. For a Sigma male, that reality is amplified beyond measure. His natural instinct is already inward. He reflects. He studies himself. He moves to the rhythm of his own independence. So when he's single, his focus doesn't fade, it crystallizes. It's like sunlight concentrated through a lens, turning into a flame. His attention burns hotter, clearer, and more unstoppable than before. The hours most people spend texting, compromising plans, or juggling social obligations, He pours directly into building his vision. And the Sigma male doesn't simply chase goals. He constructs legacies, empires, creations that outlast him. Psychologists have long observed this pattern. Solitude fuels innovation. Studies, like those from the University of Buffalo, found that people who choose solitude, not forced isolation, but intentional withdrawal, are often more creative, more productive, and more fulfilled than those drowning in constant social obligation. This is exactly why so many Sigma males flourish during their single years. They're not waiting for someone to hand them purpose. They are sculpting it from the inside out. Their drive isn't fueled by applause or acceptance. It comes from within, relentless and untouchable. To a Sigma, solitude isn't loneliness. It's strategy. It's what Tesla embraced when he said women distracted him from invention. It's what Jobs relied on when retreating into silence to spark innovation. It's what Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, warned about centuries ago when he cautioned against scattering oneself too thin. He who is everywhere is nowhere. That timeless line captures the very essence of the Sigma male's mindset. For him, being single isn't some accident or misfortune. It's the conscious choice to avoid scattering his energy in 100 directions. Instead, he plants himself firmly in his own lane, grinding forward with laser-like focus, discipline, and purpose. And here's where things get entertaining. When someone casually asks him, "So, why are you still single?" he doesn't squirm, stammer, or rush into awkward excuses. He simply smiles. Because behind that smile is a thought he rarely voices out loud. While you're out here chasing attention and distractions, I'm stacking bricks for an empire you won't even see coming. That's not arrogance. That's clarity. Relationships can be meaningful, yes, but for a Sigma male, they're never the foundation. His legacy is, his empire is, his life's work comes first. And if the right partner does eventually come along, she won't be joining a man still fumbling to figure himself out. She'll be stepping into a kingdom already built, a throne already waiting. So the next time someone tries to poke at you with that, "Why are you single?" question, channel that Sigma energy. Let them know you're busy building, busy creating, busy forging a life so powerful it doesn't just survive, it dominates. That's not just a mic drop. That's a legacy drop. Point 2. He becomes more emotionally resilient. Now, here's where singleness becomes a real training ground. Society loves to paint being single as some lonely, empty season. But for the Sigma male, it's the opposite. It's the crucible where emotional strength is forged. Without a partner to lean on, he learns to lean on himself. He becomes his own anchor, steady, grounded, and almost unshakable. Think about it. In most relationships, people run to their partner for reassurance, validation, or a mood boost when life hits hard. But when that crutch is gone, you're left with a powerful truth. You either break down or you learn to stand on your own. For most, that's terrifying. For the Sigma, it's transformation. Psychology supports this. Studies show that people who embrace solitude and self-reliance often develop higher resilience, sharper problem-solving skills, and greater adaptability. It's not about being cold or emotionally detached. It's about training yourself to regulate your own emotions without depending on someone else to fix you. A Sigma male practices this daily. When life throws him curveballs, whether it's toxic workplaces, financial setbacks, or personal failures, he doesn't crumble. He adapts. He recalibrates. He becomes like tempered steel, forged in fire, hardened by pressure. and nearly impossible to break. But here's the twist. This doesn't mean he turns into some stone-hearted robot incapable of feeling. Far from it. In fact, he often feels more deeply than most. His difference lies in how he processes those emotions. Instead of lashing out, drowning in self-pity, or leaning on constant external comfort, he channels those feelings into fuel. Pain becomes perspective. Loneliness transforms into creativity. Frustration sharpens into focus. That's why people sense something magnetic about him. He's not the guy begging for approval, desperate to be liked, or scrambling to please. He's the man others respect instinctively because he refuses to play by society's rules of emotional dependency. Let's be real, our entire culture thrives on validation. Social media feeds on likes, follows, swipes, and external praise. But the Sigma male, refined in solitude, stands outside that system. He doesn't need applause to know his worth, and that independence makes him harder to manipulate, harder to control, and infinitely more powerful. He proves that happiness is never a team project. It's an inside job. In the end, singleness becomes his silent superpower. It strips away the noise, forces him to dig into his essence, and builds a foundation so unshakable that no external storm can topple it. He becomes the rock others lean on, not because he set out to be a savior, but because he mastered the greatest lesson solitude offers. Your worth is not given. It is forged within yourself. Point 3. He becomes more self-aware and authentic. Now, let's zoom out. We live in a world drowning in noise, constant notifications, endless opinions, a never-ending demand to perform. Relationships can add even more layers of this noise. Expectations to meet, compromises to make, and the constant balancing act of identity. Society likes to paint relationships as the ultimate prize. But for the Sigma, the lone wolf of social dynamics, stepping away from that chaos isn't a loss. It's a luxury. His solitude becomes a hidden weapon, the fertile ground where he sharpens his inner world. In that silence, he discovers something most people never stop to search for, himself. While others bend, twist, and perform to keep up appearances or meet a partner's expectations, the Sigma sits with the raw, uncomfortable, but liberating questions. Who am I when no one's watching? What do I truly want out of this life? Which values would I defend, even if it meant standing completely alone? Science echoes the value of this practice. Periods of solitude are linked to deeper self-awareness, authenticity, and clarity of values. And this is where the Sigma male thrives. While the world drowns in noise, he listens to his own inner frequency. That's why when he finally engages with people, he does so authentically, not as a performer, but as a man who truly knows himself. Psychologists often point out that reflective solitude isn't just quiet time. It's a psychological workshop. It sharpens self-awareness, strengthens problem-solving abilities, and makes people less reactive, more deliberate, and more intentional in how they move through life. This isn't the emptiness of loneliness. It's alignment. It's the act of muting the world's static so you can finally hear the raw, unfiltered voice inside. Through this inward tuning, the Sigma male begins to discover things about himself that others may never notice. The strange quirks he doesn't feel the need to justify. The passions that light a fire within him without needing an audience. The personal boundaries that form the protective walls around his peace of mind. In this process, he learns the rarest art of all, the art of radical authenticity. Instead of bending himself into uncomfortable molds just to look appealing, instead of trying to become what others expect, he reclaims his original identity. Research on authenticity shows something powerful. People who live true to themselves not only enjoy stronger confidence and higher self-esteem, but they're also naturally perceived as more trustworthy, more magnetic, and even more attractive. And that's where the Sigma paradox reveals itself. The very moment he stops trying to impress, he becomes unforgettable. By standing firmly in truth, he transforms into a man who no longer apologizes for existing as he is. He drops the roles that never fit him. He becomes solid, grounded, self-sufficient, and that quiet confidence, untainted by arrogance, has a gravitational pull no fake performance could ever imitate. Saigas, let's be honest. The world constantly tries to sell you the idea that the key to belonging is fitting in. But the truth is, your greatest power doesn't come from blending. It comes from boldly standing out as your unfiltered, unapologetic self. There is nothing more magnetic, nothing more untouchable than a man who is deeply at home in his own skin. And that is the silent force you carry. Point 4. He becomes more financially sharp and independent. Now let's talk about money. Because like it or not, money is the quiet fuel that keeps independence alive. And here's the thing. When you've been single for years, your entire relationship with money takes on a very different shape compared to someone constantly tied into couple dynamics. Think about it. There are no split-the-bill negotiations at fancy dinners. No pressure to buy anniversary gifts. No, let's save for that romantic trip to Bali conversations. Every dollar you earn has one mission: to strengthen your future. And this isn't selfishness. It's strategy. And there's a massive difference between the two. Here's where the Sigma mindset steps in. A Sigma doesn't just let his money gather dust. He uses it like a sharpened blade, carving his independence, fueling his growth. Studies consistently show that people who invest in themselves, whether through new skills, higher education, or entrepreneurial pursuits, are far more likely to achieve lasting financial freedom than those who spend on short-term thrills. So while others are buying matching his and hers gadgets, the Sigma is quietly purchasing that online course, upgrading his tools, or setting aside seed money for the side hustle he's been building in the shadows. He knows that the greatest return on investment is never in fleeting luxuries. It's in himself. Now picture this. While his peers are dropping $200 on double-date dinners, the Sigma is putting that same amount into the stock market or a long-term asset. That money doesn't just vanish into the weekend. It compounds. It multiplies. Small, consistent investments snowball into massive freedom down the line. And by the time others are buried in joint mortgages and credit card debt, the Sigma is sitting on a portfolio that confidently whispers, "I built this with my own two hands." That's real power. But here's the deeper beauty of financial independence. It isn't just about stacking dollars. It's about creating options. Options to walk away from a toxic boss without flinching. Options to take 6 months off for a sabbatical. Options to finally launch that dream project without needing anyone's approval. And this is where Sigmas thrive, because their entire philosophy revolves around autonomy. They don't wait for permission. They are the permission. So when you see a Sigma male who's been single for years, don't mistake his independence for loneliness. What he's really been doing is laying down bricks, quietly, steadily, for an empire that will stand long after the noise of the crowd fades. He's not simply working on a career. He's constructing something far bigger, a fortress of freedom, layer by layer. Financial freedom, emotional freedom, spiritual freedom. Every brick he lays is not just about wealth. It's about securing the right to live life fully on his own terms. And tell me, what greater empire could there be than one built on that kind of independence? Point 5. He becomes more selective, more high value as a partner. Here's the truth. My friends, society has this strange habit of shaming men for being single, as if your worth rises or falls depending on whether someone else validates you in a relationship. But here's the great irony. What most people see as a weakness is actually your biggest strength. Your singleness isn't a symbol of lack. It's living proof that you've invested years mastering yourself. While countless men rush headfirst into relationships simply because they're terrified of loneliness, you've been pouring your energy into building purpose, sharpening your mind, and crafting a life that already has meaning without anyone needing to fill in the empty spaces. That's not just confidence. It's independence on a level that most men will never touch. And let's be clear, a Sigma male doesn't enter a relationship out of desperation or fear. He steps into it because he chooses to, not because he needs to. And that single choice flips the entire dynamic upside down. You're not settling for whoever happens to come along. You're looking for someone who matches your energy, someone who respects your path and adds her own fire to the journey. That makes you discerning, razor sharp. Red flags? You spot them before they even unfold. Manipulation? It bounces off you because you don't carry that desperation that blinds so many men into tolerating it. Your standards aren't arrogance, they're self-respect. And because you've invested in yourself, you know exactly what you bring to the table. Emotional resilience, authenticity, independence, and a depth that's magnetic. This naturally filters out the ones who aren't ready for your level. And when you finally choose a partner, she's not with you because you're desperate for attention. She's drawn in because you represent something rare. A man who doesn't need her to survive, but chooses her to thrive with. That's the hidden key to the Sigma's value in love. You're not a taker. You're a builder. You bring vision, stability, and purpose. And the woman who stands beside you doesn't complete you. She joins a life that was already complete, which makes the bond richer, deeper, and unshakably strong. Point 6. He becomes more unconventional and innovative. This is where the Sigma truly thrives, right in the space where independence meets innovation. Unlike other archetypes who measure their worth by status within a hierarchy, Sigmas have no problem living completely outside of it. Their identity isn't tied to how many friends they collect, how much admiration they receive, or whether a partner validates their choices. Instead, their identity is carved out of self-reliance and conviction. And when they embrace singleness, that independence amplifies. For a Sigma, singleness isn't an empty void. It's a stage, an echo chamber where creativity, freedom, and originality roar louder than ever. Without the constant compromises that relationships often require, the Sigma gains unmatched freedom to explore. Imagine being able to book a one-way flight to another country without checking anyone's calendar. Imagine waking up at midnight and deciding to dive into coding, or painting, or martial arts, just because the impulse strikes. That's the Sigma life. Unscripted, unpredictable, but undeniably authentic. Even psychology supports this. Researchers note that solitude often fuels creativity because the mind finally has space, uninterrupted space, to connect ideas in ways that crowds and noise would drown out. That solitude isn't loneliness. It's fertile soil where originality takes root. This is also why many Sigma males end up as trailblazers. They're not ticking boxes on the life milestones checklist: engagement, house, kids, retirement, as if existence were some standardized exam. They're busy writing blueprints no one else has ever seen. History is filled with lone wolves who thrived in this exact way. Take Nikola Tesla, for example. He never married, but his solitude gave him the space to imagine technologies far beyond his era. Sigma males echo that spirit of unconventional genius. turning their single years into workshops where ideas are tested, failures are embraced, and success is redefined. The difference? He isn't afraid of falling, because even failure on his own terms is better than climbing a ladder built for someone else. While others spend their lives chasing validation, the Sigma chases vision. His single years aren't a waiting room for love. They're the forge where he shapes his destiny. Point 7. He becomes the master of his own narrative. And finally, this may be the most powerful transformation of all. The longer a Sigma male remains single, the more he sharpens himself into the undisputed author of his own story. Unlike the script most of society hands to men, where value is weighed by relationship status, wedding rings, or family milestones, the Sigma male writes from an entirely different inkwell. His story isn't divided into neat chapters titled before the relationship and after the relationship. His life plays out as a continuous saga, an unbroken journey where the main character never surrenders the pen. And make no mistake, this isn't arrogance. It's awareness. A deep understanding that true fulfillment doesn't hinge on external applause or validation, but on the relentless pursuit of his own growth, his passions, and the vision he's carving for himself. Picture the Sigma male as a lone explorer, trekking landscapes that most wouldn't dare to cross without someone at their side. History itself is littered with such men. Nikola Tesla, who famously sacrificed traditional relationships for the sake of his work, or Henry David Thoreau, who retreated to Walden Pond and returned with timeless wisdom that reshaped humanity's understanding of solitude. These men weren't avoiding love. They simply understood that their life's narrative was greater than society's checklist of milestones. And when a Sigma does decide to let someone into his world, the relationship never consumes his identity. It isn't the story. It's a subplot, a powerful supporting arc that adds depth, but never takes the spotlight away from the man himself. This is exactly why Sigmas often radiate such magnetic energy in relationships. They bring wholeness, not neediness. They aren't chasing someone to complete them. They are choosing someone who adds value to a life already brimming with purpose. And that difference, love as a choice instead of a crutch, changes everything. Sigmas, this is your ultimate power. The freedom to write your own story without apology, to live on your own terms, to define success according to your own metrics, to refuse to shrink yourself into a script somebody else wrote for you. In a world obsessed with timelines, labels, and relationship status updates, you are living proof that the most captivating story is the one authored by a man who dares to put himself unapologetically at the center of his own journey. And the truth? That's not only attractive, it's legendary. So the next time someone asks why you're single, or even if you're in a relationship now but looking back, remember this. Your season of solitude was never just an empty phase. It was a pilgrimage, a sacred chapter of intentional growth, reflection, and inner mastery. Your singleness was never about what you lacked. It was about what you gained. Abundance of clarity, abundance of freedom, abundance of self-awareness. That's where you learn to trust yourself, respect yourself, and build the kind of foundation that no storm can ever break. Your true power has never been measured by who you're attached to. It comes from being anchored in yourself. So own that journey. Stop seeing your singleness as a waiting room. It was a power-up, a rare chance to sharpen yourself into the most authentic, resilient, and purpose-driven version of who you were always meant to be. This is your journey. This is your strength. And this, right here, is your time. If this message resonates with you, don't just keep it to yourself. Like, share, and subscribe to Epic Persona. This is where we uncover the mindset, power, and purpose of men who refuse to be defined by anyone but themselves. And here's a question for you. Do you see solitude as loneliness or as the training ground for your next level?